Hey, what's up you guys? Welcome back to my channel. It's me, True Brilliance, here with the Saturn Through the Houses series, back as promised. So you guys have been asking me for the 411 on Saturn, and I am here to give you guys all of the tea spill on this very mysterious, hard-working, back-breaking planet, okay? So when you first get into astrology, one of the main planets that you learn about is the planet Saturn. And Saturn actually incites a lot of fear in a lot of people, especially when you are just new to astrology. Everybody has a lot of fear around the planet Saturn, right? Because Saturn is known to represent limitations, hardships, blockages, and all of those things that we kind of don't want to deal with. But I have a very intimate relationship with the planet Saturn. I'm a moon in Capricorn, for those of you that do not know. So I have a very intimate relationship with this planet. And over the years, I've come to really work with this planet and actually start to really understand how this planet works. So Saturn is a planet about maturity. And to be all the way honest, the people that have the most problems with Saturn are people that have not fully matured in life, or you haven't exactly set up your structure in life. And that's exactly what Saturn is trying to get us to do. Saturn is trying to get us to structure our lives and get our shit together. So as most of you guys may know, there's something called a Saturn return, where Saturn returns to its original place that it was when you were born. It's a 28-year cycle. So around age 28, Saturn returns to the original place that it was in your birth chart, and you have your Saturn return. This is a time of grave responsibility. Sometimes the structure of our life starts crumbling down so that we can build a new structure in our lives. So it could be a time of crisis in our life, but it can also be a time of great rewards. Most importantly, it is a time of great maturity for us and tests and trials and tribulations, which is basically what Saturn is about. But what I want to talk to you guys about today is the fact that Saturn is not all bad. It's not all doom and gloom. Saturn is actually helping us. It's just the way that it trains us and the way that it gives us wisdom can sometimes be a little bit harsh, okay? So when looking at your Saturn placement, make sure you look and find what house Saturn is in. So I do believe that the sign that Saturn is placed in is very important, but the house that Saturn is placed in is going to show the area of life that you are going to experience these limitations or perceived limitations in your life, okay? And it's very important to know where your Saturn placement is, because this is the area of life that you may struggle a lot. And some people can feel like they're cursed in this area of life. It's usually an area of life that you feel very insecure about, or you don't feel as confident in this area of life, usually because you've had a lot of setbacks or you've had a lot of things not turn out in your favor in the house that Saturn is in. So the house that Saturn is in can kind of make us feel a little bit insecure about ourselves. And that's why it's so important for you to learn about your Saturn placement and learn, most importantly, what it is that you can do to fix this, okay? And to combat these feelings of insecurity and inadequacy that Saturn can cause. A few key things to know about your Saturn placement. Saturn rules time, okay? It rules time. So it takes time for Saturn's energy to come into its full fruition. So whatever house that your Saturn is placed in, that is a house that you can be a late bloomer in life, okay? So if you have like Saturn in the 7th house, you may not find a harmonious relationship until you get older in age. If you have Saturn in the 2nd house of finances, you may not get the money that you want or that you feel like you deserve, or your earning power may not really kick in until later in life, okay? If you have Saturn in the 5th house, the house of fun and entertainment, you may not really start to enjoy yourself and kick back and relax and let your inner child out until you get older in age, okay? So from my experience, Saturn doesn't really come into its full maturation until about 40, okay? So wherever I see Saturn in somebody's chart, I usually tell them you can expect for things to start working properly or you to be in your full stride when you get in about your 40s. Now, people don't want to hear this. People do not want to hear this, but I'm always honest with people because a lot of people wonder why things haven't happened for them, the area in the house that Saturn is in, it's because Saturn is there, and Saturn is slow time. It's gradual, it's step by step, it's painstaking. Okay, take it from a Capricorn moon, it's painstaking. So it takes a while for you to learn the lessons and gain the wisdom that Saturn is trying to teach you in that area of life. And usually it's accompanied by a lot of trials and tribulations. Yes, so trying things, them not working out, you having to fall on your ass, and you having to redo it, start all over again, start from scratch, okay? So the house that Saturn is placed in, that may be an area of life that you may feel that you fail a lot, or you just cannot get it right for some reason. It's really like a thorn in your side. But what you are doing is you are gaining mastery in that area of life. You are learning to become the master of that house. So start looking at it in that respect, because once you do achieve success, which is what Saturn's all about, once you do achieve success in the house that Saturn is in, you will be the master of it. You will sit at the top of the mountain. You will be the person that knows everything from A to Z about that house. And then you can actually take your knowledge and teach other people about that house. That's how good that you're going to be at that house. So please do not look at Saturn in a negative light. Don't look at it like you're doomed for the rest of your life. Don't look at it as you're doomed for the rest of your life, because you're not. You are just learning to become the master of that energy, okay? So just look at it in that way. There's always a positive way to look at situations. I try to be optimistic. Sun in the 9th house. I always try to look at the positive instead of the negative of a situation, and that's how I see it. And then also just look at it as you have something to look forward to in life. Your success is yet to come. Few key things about your Saturn placement. It is an area of life that you need to gain maturity, okay? A lot of the decisions that you make in that area or in that house may not be the most mature. It's an area of life that you need to gain maturity in, and that you need to gain wisdom, because you may not know enough about that area of life and you need to gain more understanding about it. You're going to experience blockages in the house that Saturn is placed in, and you're not going to know why. It's going to be an area of life that you're going to continue to try to succeed, but you keep on getting knocked down, and it can be very frustrating in that area of life. But it's usually something that you want really, really, really bad. You're also going to have to do hard work in that area of life. So things are not going to come easy to you in that area of life that Saturn is placed in. You're going to have to work for it, and you're going to have to work hard for it. You may also have to make some sacrifices in the area of life that Saturn is placed in, okay? And when I'm saying area of life, I'm speaking of the house placements, because the house placements represent different areas of life. So just to go over it, the first house represents your individual identity and the self. Second house rules your finances, your possessions, and the things that you own. Third house rules communication in your immediate environment. Fourth house rules the home and the family and your childhood and your deepest emotions, your emotional foundation. Fifth house rules entertainment, fun, hobbies, what you do to enjoy yourself. Sixth house rules your daily routine and your health, how you take care of yourself mentally, physically, emotionally. Seventh house is your one-to-one relationships and partnerships in marriage. Eighth house is joint finances, soul bonding, deep intimacy, death, rebirth, and transformation. Ninth house is higher learning, higher education, and higher spirituality. 10th house is your overall career and public standing, your public image. 11th house is your groups and organizations, your tribe. And 12th house is the house of your unconscious and your dreams and your ideals and spirituality. So that's an overview of all the houses, okay? So we are going to go ahead and get into the Saturn placement. So now we're going to talk about Saturn in the third house. Okay, Saturn in the third house. Now, a lot of people don't really know a lot about what the third house means, so I'm going to break it down to you. Now, third house rules a couple of things. It rules our communication, our connections with people in our immediate environment. So it rules our siblings, the siblings that you grew up with. It rules transportation, so how you get around, incoming and outgoing information. It rules the way we speak. It rules small talk, small chatter, gossip, things like that. Third house also represents our mental capabilities, the way that we think, and our state of mind, which is very, very important. So people that have Saturn in the third, I actually do come across Saturn in the third quite a bit. So a lot of people that have Saturn in the third have blockages with their communication or a lot of insecurities about the way that they communicate. They have a lot of insecurities about their mental capability, okay? So you may feel you don't communicate strongly enough, or you may even feel that you're not heard properly when you do communicate, or sometimes you just may have a hard time getting out your thoughts, getting people to understand what it is that you're talking about or what you're saying. A lot of people that have Saturn in the third actually have a lot of people that talk over them in conversation or block them some type of way when they're trying to speak. It's like every time that you try to go speak, you literally get blocked or somebody talks over you or something like that. And I know it can be very, very frustrating. But Saturn in the third feel like, or they're not able to really tell people what's on their mind. Okay, so you may feel that for some reason your communication is very, very poor. Okay, so some people that have Saturn in the third can be born with like a speech impediment or something like that. It can literally manifest as a blockage like that. Sometimes when it comes to the way that you think and things like that, you can be like a very methodical thinker. Sometimes it can take you a little bit longer to process information. With Saturn in the third, you're trying to work on structuring your mind, okay? Structuring your thoughts and communicating in a very clear and concise way. Saturn also wants you to take your time when processing information, because sometimes people that have Saturn in the third, the way that you process information, it could be too scrambled, it can be too all over the place. And Saturn wants you to take your time with processing information and taking your time when speaking to other people. Saturn in the third can also feel cut off from the people around you. So sometimes you can feel, since third house rules people in our immediate environment, sometimes you may have a hard time connecting with people in your immediate environment. You can have a hard time connecting with your neighbors, connecting with your siblings. A lot of people that have Saturn in the third have drama or blockages or not a good relationship with their siblings. It could be a lot of stress, and just connecting with those around you, starting up regular chit chat conversations with people can feel very awkward. You may not know what to say, and it just may be very hard to get your point across. Also meeting new people, since the third house is about formulating new connections, you may feel like it's really hard for you to formulate new connections with people. Or just to have day-to-day conversations with people can be something that's really hard. And for a lot of people, this could be something that's very hard for others to understand, because they're like, how do you have a hard time having just regular conversations with people? But a lot of the times it can really be because people do not understand you, or you're misunderstood a lot when it comes to communication, which can be very frustrating. So Saturn actually wants you to speak out more when you have Saturn in the third house. Work on your speaking, your public speaking, striking up random conversations with people, facing a lot of your fears when it comes to communication. Also, since third house rules transportation, people that have Saturn in the third can have like terminal, chronic car problems. I know that's usually not the words you use with that, but people that have Saturn in the third can have a lot of issues with transportation, and being able to get from point A to point B may be really hard for you. You may always have car troubles, or you may not even have a car. Since Saturn rules delay, Saturn may delay you, like maybe you didn't get your driver's license until way later. Maybe you weren't able to get a car until way later. When you did get a car, you always have issues with your car, because third house rules how we get around, how we transport ourselves to point A to point B. So that could be something that's very frustrating with this position. It's like all of the little nuisances, the little crooks and crannies of daily life may just always come across blockages for you. Like just literally you traveling from one place to another, you may come up against a lot of hardships and blockages just from you just trying to get around. Also, like your early school life. So third house rules like our early school life, our early school learning environment. So like elementary school, like learning, or maybe with your peers in school and things like that. It may have affected the way that you initially learn, because third house is kind of lower learning and like everyday learning, basic school learning, and then ninth house is our higher education, university, spirituality, and things of that nature. So with your Saturn being in the 3rd house, your early learning environment may have been very hard for you, or maybe the learning style or the way that the teacher taught at school was just something that you just did not connect with. So when you have Saturn in the 3rd house, you can all around have issues connecting with different concepts, connecting with certain knowledge, and you just may have a totally unique way of learning new information. So a lot of people that have Saturn in the 3rd house, you're better off being self-taught and teaching yourself and learning in your own way. That's not, you know, traditional. Just small talk and small conversation may just be something that you just do not enjoy. Okay, so having Saturn in the 3rd house, it's really important for you to work on your communication skills, to speak out and speak your mind, even if it feels uncomfortable, and to let your voice be heard, okay? Don't let people talk over you. Get your thoughts out, okay? Get your thoughts out and say exactly what it is that you want to say, okay? So if you're just going around places, point A to point B, strike up conversations with people. Talk to people around you, because people around you can have very important information that you need to know. Sometimes that's how we learn things, is just from randomly like talking to people, and sometimes they have good information for us. That's what the 3rd house is about. So go ahead and leave your comments down below if you have Saturn in the 3rd house, okay? And thank you so much for watching my video.